The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
Once again, you've forgot a cigar.
I didn't forget.
At least you're here.
I'm here. Traffic really sucked. Be glad I'm here. I had to drive by my house. I'm like, I could be at home right now, but no, I'm gonna go see Joe and I'm gonna podcast because I told him that on Tuesday, come hell or high water, I would be there to record.
Well, I got a cigar to review that I just had to cut a little extra off because that was quite tight. This, is the Headley Grange Black Lab, which is kind of a
Does it wolf?
well, it's a remix of a limited edition blend of the Headley Grange Black Dog, which in itself was a reference to Led Zeppelin, because that's, I guess, where the studio where one of their albums was recorded, and they wrote a song called Black Dog, about a dog that hung out at the studio.
Which, if you're a rock star and you don't have a song about hanging out with a dog, are you really a rock star?
And of course, since we're going to be talking about Chapter 4 of John Wick later in this episode, I figure a dog-themed cigar would be a good way to go.
Well, in the spirit of John Wick, I brought to you the Alt Zero 6 milligram Just Reds vape juice. A red slushy, if you will.
Ooh.
Or actually not even, I would even venture to say Slurpee for the old school fans.
Fucking hipster. This is Cigar Nerds, not Vape Nerds Podcast.
In the spirit of John Wick, everything just went red.
All right,
And
I'll
I mean,
give you that one.
It wasn't a black dog, but there were dogs, and nuts turned red.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that one. That was, that was a highlight. This has got a U.S. Connecticut Habano wrapper with Nicaraguan binders and fillers, and only 1,500 boxes of 12 cigars each made. This is a limited edition.
Well, this is not so limited, but it sports a 70 VG to 30 PG ratio.
D nuts. Oh no, it's DG.
Victor Golf? Papa Golf?
And I gotta say, it's got a oaky bourbon flavor to it. Like if you've ever smoked Jim Beam Devil's Cut, where it's like they squeeze the whiskey out of the wood that's left in the barrel. That kind of has that like extra woody bourbon flavor.
I bet that's a good bourbon cigar.
Yeah, so another month before I can start drinking again.
I gotta say, though, the thing that caught my eye about the cigar is the construction. Like, I can't see a single vein or anything else. I mean, that is probably one of the purest box press that I've seen.
Yeah, and this particular version is a 6x52 box press, and it is a tight little bastard. But other than kind of having to, probably didn't cut enough off with the first hit. But sometimes with box press it's hard to draw sometimes if it's too pressed. Where once I cut enough off, it had it's got really good flow.
Like with a box press, a lot of times I actually prefer to do a V cut. And sometimes I'll even get really creative and do an X cut.
I mean, if depending on the size of the box press, I always like a good punch. Like before I got my giant Zycar O, it was big enough to actually cut a full box press. It's punch was easier to, because most cigar cutters, it's like sticking a square peg in a round hole, so it doesn't.
It'll go. Well. You just gotta force it. You gotta lube it.
Where the punch is able to get in there. Well, as we said earlier, we're gonna be talking about John Wick Chapter 4, and if you've got to take on the high table, you should call on the Strike Force. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Promo code Cigar Nerds gets you 20% off your order. and comes in tiny little tin pouches that I mean you may be able to like kill somebody with. I don't know. I haven't tried. Try it yourself. It may work. And for y'all watching on the YouTubes, we got some nice set decoration here. I got my John Wick Glock 34. Even got one of the little Continental coins.
I'm not sure we're actually getting a stream right now.
Yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I can't see the monitor on the camera.
I mean, all I can tell is the screen's black.
Well, the red light means it's recording, but yeah, I can't monitor it from my phone like I normally do because my phone's being a cock smoker. And speaking of cock smokers, we'll be right back with the main topic. People keep asking if I'm back. Yeah, I think I'm back. Again for fucking chapter 4. Which we had like John Wick. We had John Wick chapter 2. And then John Wick 3 is like Parabellum. And it's like, nah, we're not doing the subtitles anymore. Let's go back to like chapter 4.
Yeah. I don't know. Before we get into any spoilers, dude, this is the epitome of the action genre. Like, I think throughout this entire movie, you get maybe a half hour of script. The rest of it is just,
like when you're
badass. Like,
when your writers and directors are like former stunt guys, like, yeah, it's like, but you're right. The written script, if you take out all like the, I guess, action direction, just like the verbiage, it's like, yeah, it's probably 2 pages because there are long continuous action sequences where with like no like dialogue. No, it's just straight up fights, gunfights, whatever.
And that was the thing that I really enjoyed about.
But at the
this
same
film.
time, I was like, the story is pretty fucking compelling. Like it's like I said, they're the brief parts where somebody are speaking. It's like this is like a good fucking story.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why it's been such a successful franchise, and all of the folks that attended the box office paid their hard-earned money, and
this is the highest grossing. I mean, it's still in theaters now, but it has outgrossed the three previous films.
And I mean, even when I saw it, the film had already been out 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
And it was still a pretty packed auditorium for it to be out that long.
Yeah, I think it was like #1 movie for like maybe 3 weeks in a row until the thing that finally knocked it off its lead on like the 3rd week was that new Dungeons and Dragons movie. But other than that, it's like, yeah, fucking Shazam like bombed. It's like, no, like you cannot take on John Wick. Are you stupid?
Yeah, I mean that's, I don't know, just the action sequences, the story and everything. Like, how do you say, like, you can't have a bad experience with John Wick.
And I swear these movies have become, before we get into like details, this is nearly a 3-hour movie, but it's a huge advertisement for Terran Tactical. Because not only does he has made like John Wick's loadout for the last 3 movies, he even outfitted the bad guys. So it's like, even like, when the bad guys that are running around, you're seeing little Terran Tactical logos on like every fucking gun. I'm like, no wonder if I want to get my Glock 34 with the John Wick conversion, it's like, yeah, there's a year lead time if you want a John Wick gun at this point.
I've already ordered 3 Pit Vipers.
Oh yeah, and that's the new toy made specifically for this movie, the fucking Pit Viper. We'll get into that bastard later, but I do like, he starts off the movie with the Glock 34.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, all right, I still have a John Wick gun. I just haven't had the nice conversion done to it yet.
What, the 34? That was chapter 2, right?
Yes, and chapter 3 it was like a Combat Master version of the STI 2011, and in this movie it's another Glock 34, but John Wick 2 was a Gen 3 Glock 34, where the new one is a Gen 5 MOS Glock 34. So you get the newer Glock for this movie.
I'm still rocking the Gen 323. Still going strong after all these years.
Yeah, I've been looking for a Gen 3 19 so I can get the terminal list package. Get that James Reese gun. Oh, but yeah, and that's one thing too is like, if you remember from the last movie, he got shot a bunch of times and thrown off a roof, so he's had some like recovery time. And like the director was even, because people are like, what's the actual kind of timeline of
Isn't
John
it like
Wick
a
movies?
week?
Like the first 3 movies happen in like a week, and then there's like, they say it's like 4 years between the end of 3 and 4. Because yeah, he was pretty fucked up at the end of the last one. They're like, yeah, he's gonna need a break to recover. He's been hanging out with the Bowery King in the sewers, doing kung fu and getting ready. He really has become the Baba Yaga, because like, you know, there's just like the legend of John Wick's gonna come for us all at some point, and like nobody, you know, but no one's seen him in like 4 years, and then, you know, and so it's like he literally became like a fucking nursery, whatever.
He's a ghost.
But yeah, when Homeboy shows up with you know, Lawrence Fishburne with the suit, and he's like, "You ready to go back to work, John?" He's like, "Think I am." And the first thing he's doing is like, "I'm gonna go find that motherfucker that took my finger, get my ring back." And he's like fucking riding through the desert on a horse with like, you know,
Yeah, he was on a horse with no name.
but like very Western of it. And you know, from here on out, probably spoilers, but non-spoiler, this movie, a real return to original John Wick. Like the first, it's like the stunt crew has tried to do something like a little bit different each time. Like the first one, it was like, you know, pretty much all gunfights. And the second one, there was a lot more like 3-gun type shit. And then like the last movie, there's like a shitload of knife fights. And there's like so much like knife and martial arts stuff in the second one, where this one, it's like
All the above.
yeah, but
Check all the boxes.
we're back to the big freaking gunfighting sequences and dogs.
I mean, dude, like, give it up for the fur missiles.
Oh yeah, like we had Halle Berry's was it German Shepherds or in the last one, and most of the time you give commands to those dogs in like German or something, because you just don't want them like, you know, taking anybody's orders. But this dog that's in this movie, and you know, and her dogs were biting nuts. Where this one, he gives commands in English, and it's like balls, and he just fucking dogs running around and biting people in the nuts.
I mean, dude, the soft bits, like, oh, it made me ache a little. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, that dog like specific, and you know you got to be trained for that, because like most your dogs, they attack like the arms or something. It's gonna like, no, he's like, that's his fucking attack point is the balls. It's like, you know, who is that fucking dog trainer? Like, yeah, just out training people to bite nuts. Ugh.
I mean, you can recover from an arm, dude. You take a tooth through a testicle, though. Like, that's a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people get hit in the legs and shit, but yeah. And the thing about working with dogs, like when dog gets like super excited and is going after a target, sometimes the handler gets bit too, just because it's like fucking, you know, something gets in my way, and it's like, and like, you know, I know I need to go bite something in that direction, and some rando steps out and it's like, ooh, I'll bite this, it's nearer. I don't want to be the guy that accidentally gets bit in the nuts. It's like everybody else on set's wearing like a cup just in case. Like, just in case the dog's off target, I gotta prepare.
Like, what happens? Like, just nuts. Go get him, boy.
Oh, some dude walks up and like, "Hey man, you want some nuts?" and tries to hand you a bag of peanuts, and the dog just bites him in the dick. Oh, sorry, you said the magic word.
He goes nuts for nuts.
Chocked full of nuts. Oh, but yeah, the movie starts with he's like, "Fuck this! I'm taking out this entire." Like goes after the elder first, and then the guy's like, "Dude, it's literally like you kill me, they'll just replace me. It's like the guy who took your finger in your ring is gone, and I took his place. There'll probably be someone here in my place tomorrow if you kill me. So you really just wasted your time. He's like, all right, yeah, I guess so, and just shoots him in the fucking face. He's like, nah, just make me feel better.
I'm not a pushover. Although I gotta say, like, the table's definitely got something for hands. Like, I don't know what kind of hand fetish they got, but you know, they're definitely into it.
Yeah, so we got a new bad guy this movie.
Everyone?
Well, yeah, but
All at once?
the boss character is the Marquis, who basically is another guy who sits on the high table, and the high table is just like, yeah, dude, just Marquis Vincent Darmont, member of the high table, who's they're just like, do whatever you have to kill John Wick. We don't care. So he kind of fucks some shit up. Starting with the Continental, since Winston failed to kill John Wick. And I'm pretty sure that was on purpose, because he knew Homeboy was wearing a bulletproof suit, and he just shot him a bunch of time in his suit instead of shooting him in the face. But we've seen, like, with the last movie, they deconsecrated the Continental, but now you get the it's like Condemned, and you got what's his name, Clancy Brown as the Harbinger, who like comes in to I guess like pass sentence on the hotel, and just like pulls out like a giant fucking hourglass out of his bag, and it's like, this hotel has been condemned. You have an hour or whatever to get your affairs in order and go see Homeboy.
Did you know they call it an hourglass because it takes an hour for the sand to drain from one side to the other?
Yes.
Good.
But why do they still call like the little like 15-minute like egg timers hourglasses?
They don't. That's why we crush them. They're imposters. They're inferior.
Like the little tiny ones you get in all your like board games and shit, that like when things are time sensitive, you get that. Your Scrabble board or whatever, you got your little win, lose, or draw.
20 seconds.
Don't they even like put little, with everyone carrying like phones with stopwatches? Like, I haven't bought a new board game in a while. Do they still even include the tiny sand timer?
I'm sure it's some kind of like retro gaming marketing ploy. There's probably something out there with it packaged, but you'll probably end up paying a premium.
This is made with like special Saharan sand. It's like, eco-friendly and shit.
Straight from Arabia.
Speaking of which, here's the one thing that kind of off about me for this film, plot hole wise. He does a lot of travel in this. Like in the previous film, he like, when he was like excommunicado and trying to get from New York to I forget wherever he went to meet up with Halle Berry, he had like go to like the Russian mafia people that he used to work for and like call in his one last favor to get transportation. This one, he's like in the fucking desert in the Middle East. He's like in Japan. He's in fucking Germany. I mean, like back in America. Paris, yeah. He's just like globetrotting like all over the fucking place. And you never see him have to like, oh, I'm on like fucking watch lists and shit. Like, is he just flying Delta or something? Like, cause the dude just like popping like all over the world, but they show how difficult it was for him to travel in the last movie, and then nothing this movie. So it's like, dude just shows up where he needs to show up.
I think probably the biggest, and not really even a plot hole, but I'm sorry, if you got 20 dudes shooting in a street, at some point there's gonna be a police presence. At not one point does a single cop show up like to any of this. Like, you got traffic accidents, high-speed chases, multiple shooters, and like...
Well, at the same time, you've got... we've seen in the previous films that like the high table literally like is the shadow government. So when the cops show up at John Wick's house, they're like, "Oh, you working, John?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So it's like, could be like the the whatever Marquis there just calls like the whatever the Paris police are called and be like, hey, we're doing some shit tonight, so y'all just stay out of this neighborhood.
Well, I mean, it's France, so at the end of the day, they're going to turn and run anyway.
Yeah, they're like, fuck, the Germans are coming back. Flee, flee.
Wee!
Oh.
French toast.
But yeah, but even before we get to that, like I said, they kill Lance Reddick's character. Like he's like, well, you're no longer. When they condemn the hotel and excommunicate.
Dude, that happened a lot sooner in the film than I expected.
Yeah, that was like, oh shit, that's already. He's like, you're no longer a manager, so you don't need a concierge, and like just fucking shoots him and leaves Vincent to deal with his. Which seems like a man you shouldn't piss off, because that dude's like fucking even excommunicado. He's still connected. He's like, oh, now you're gonna have someone that gonna help John. Y'all just made like an extra enemy. You've excommunicadoed me. I don't have to play by the rules anymore. So y'all gonna get fucked up now.
But I mean, it's just crazy how much of a story arc, because the starting, the high table, it's like, damn, they got all these rules, and, like, this is truly organized, and, blah, blah. And then at the end of it, you're like, fuck it, kill them all. They're all arrogant assholes.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like, R.I.P. Lance Reddick, but, yeah, he got killed off awfully quick in this movie. That I was like, oh, shit. But then, it's kind of like, other than John Wick, it's like everyone's expendable. Yeah, but there's like, and then by killing him, you're like, oh shit, like anybody's like fair game at this point, because he's kind of one of the main like anchor points of all four of these movies is the concierge and the manager, and like fucking who's gonna die next?
Everyone, all at once.
Oh, and apparently that was Bill Skarsgård is playing the
Squizgard?
The Marquis, which you may know him. Isn't that the guy who plays Pennywise in the new the new It movies? I don't recognize him without like, buck teeth and a shitload of makeup. I was like, that was fucking Pennywise? I didn't surprise he didn't hang out in the sewers of Paris more.
Yeah. It Chapter 2.
Yep.
That's him.
So we got a few new characters this round, other than the fucking Marquis here. We get Donnie Yen. I mean, this movie was heavy on like martial arts action. I mean, they got a bunch of like legit martial arts badasses in this, because you got Donnie Yen playing Kane, who's an old friend of John Wick's, who basically gave up his eye. Like, he wanted out of the business, and they're like, all right, give us your eyes. And he did. And then he became like a fucking blind master, just so they wouldn't, like, his daughter would be safe. So they're like, hey, you're the most badass motherfucker. Like, you have to find and kill John Wick, or we'll no longer protect your child and stuff. So if you want to be done with the table, this is your price of exit. You got to track down and kill your old buddy John.
That's the thing, though, is I don't think there's ever truly an exit.
No, because hell, even the people that exited, like fucking John Wick, got pulled back in, and then, like I said, this dude gave up his eyes and still got pulled back in. And then you get Mr. Nobody, who's like a whole different. We've seen assassins in this world, but now we have like the Tracker, who is basically just a guy who finds people for assassins.
Yeah, see, like, I would have liked to have seen more backstory on him. Like, because, I mean, there was more than one time that he legit had the drop on Wick. Like,
and could, like, find him when nobody else. And he's like, no, I'm not paid to kill you. I'm just paid to find you. So I'm going to keep you alive until, whoever.
The price is right.
The price is right. Like you have a price, but it's not worth it yet. But I liked his, and it's played by Shamir Anderson, who, if you were a fan of the Winona Earp series, he played Deputy Marshal Dawes. And I think it's like the last time I seen him in something, but he's kind of cowboy, like modern cowboy. I like because he
he is
like
the
everyone else is
epitome
in like
of-
fancy suits. He's like, just looks like a regular, survival guy.
But I think at the end of the day, like, the fancy suits and all of that, like, kind of a giveaway. Like,
Yeah, if you're a tracker, like bounty hunter that's supposed to find people,
and you look like the people that you're trying to find, like, you're gonna be a target.
I mean, dressing more like the Gray Man, kind of like if you look at the Bowery Kings people that all just look like homeless people, so they blend in with the New York, so no one like pays attention to like the homeless guy getting intel on you. He's kind of dressed the same way to like blend in, but I do like his cowboy aesthetic because his preferred weapon is a tacked out Marlin like 44 lever gun that breaks down and goes into like a backpack, and he even carries like an old 6-shooter. I mean, he's and has like badass like fucking Belgian Malinois fur missile biting nuts is his sidekick. I was like, yeah, that I want, because they're talking about doing several John Wick spinoffs. We've got the Ballerina coming out, I think, next year, and then we also have a TV series based on the Continental, which I've heard is going to be set in the 70s, and it's going to be kind of Winston first taking over that position of like a young Winston taking over the Continental. We need a fucking Mr. Nobody spinoff, because I would like to see more of this character.
Yeah, most definitely. And I don't know, like, I haven't read any of the graphic novels or anything. Have you?
No, I didn't even realize there was comics.
There may be, alluded to and, some of that, character backgrounds and stuff, but it was definitely one of those that I was like, very intriguing, and like, that's not the guy whose radar you want to end up on.
Yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, he just fucking like he pops, like the first place John Wick goes is I feel like every movie we've seen a different Continental, and this time we get the Osaka, Japan Continental, which is run by goddamn Scorpion.
Well, who else do you think? Get over here.
Yes, Hiroku Sanada as Shimazu Koji, the manager of the hotel, an old friend of John Wick. And yeah, and like, his people are like straight up ninjas. Like, he's got like Yakuza looking dudes, like, playing poker in the kitchen, and people working on archery and sword fighting, and it's like very like old school assassin shit going on in that place. It like, looks like some shit out of Kill Bill. Like, I kept waiting for the Crazy 88 to show up.
Dude, that would be crazy.
So yeah, and his daughter is his concierge, Akira. Well, of course,
not to be confused with Shakira.
Of course, whatchamacallit? The Marquis men show up and then try to deconcentrate, Homeboy's Continental too, and pretty much just like, what is it? John Wick, was it 3 where they have the big shootout inside the Continentals? Yeah, but so these dudes are like running around with like fucking ninjas and shit, fucking people up.
Not only the ninjas, but very Japanese fucking sumo wrestlers. Like,
Yes.
I'm like, I'm wondering how a sumo wrestler actually fares.
In hand-to-hand combat, pretty good, but I don't know about gunfighting, because that's a big fucking target. But I do like, they're like, this hotel is deconsecrated, and fucking Homeboy's like, that just means we can, do business. And like fucking all his ninjas show up with like damn bows and arrows on the top shelf, and it's like, oh, y'all are like in a fucking like shooting fish in a barrel at this point.
But are they? Are they? Because, I don't know, like poker, you never give away your hand until it's time to give away your hand. And like, haha, we took out 4 dudes. Oh shit, there's like 50 dudes now.
And Kane there being kind of the reluctant guy, getting drug along. His shit's badass, because like I said, he's blind, but he's like one of those like kung fu like blind masters where he's like his hearing is so good. I love the trick.
He uses
with the
echolocation.
Yeah, he like fucking taps shit and like king like shoots motherfuckers across the room because he's got like his cane that's also like a sword. But when he like hides in the kitchen and throws out a bunch of these like fucking doorbell motion sensors, and so it just like when the dudes like come in, it's like ding pop. Ding! I'm just like,
and I totally didn't expect doorbells. I thought it was some kind of...
Yeah, I thought it was some kind of like tripwire motion sensor explosive. But no, and it's like ding dong. It's like the shit when you like walk into a store and that beeps so people know you walked in. So it's just like ding dong. It's like, oops, there's somebody over there.
You know what it reminded me of?
What's that?
Old gas stations. You know, they used to have the line running across, so when you pulled up to the pump, ding ding. But people weren't shooting at me then.
Depends where you stop for gas these days.
I tend to not go to those places.
Yeah, and then he has to fight, fucking Scorpion at the end, and he's like, "Dude, like, just walk away." He's like, I'm not here to kill you, but anyone who gets in my way, I kind of have to. So he's like, "I'm gonna injure you. Stay the fuck down and let me go about my business." And he's like, "No, you've violated my hotel and I don't want you killing my daughter, so we dance, motherfucker." But of course, this isn't Mortal Kombat, so Scorpion goes down. But then again, Scorpion came back from the dead, so maybe John Wick 5 will get fucking ghost Koji.
With a fucking remove some mask, have the... No, that dude, that would kill the series from...
Start bringing supernatural shit into John Wick.
I mean, Mortal Kombat has introduced a lot of characters. Have they introduced John Wick as a playable character yet?
I don't think... I mean, we've got pretty much all of the horror characters. We've got, Leatherface, Jason, Freddy, fucking Terminator, the Joker. I don't think we have John Wick like that. I think they... Was it... what's that game all the kids are playing these days? Fortnite. Fortnite added John Wick. So there was a John Wick Fortnite upgrade, but yeah, I haven't seen we need a new Mortal Kombat with John Wick. That'd be pretty sweet.
I just want to state for the record, it's very weird doing a podcast and we each have a gun pointed at us. Like,
they're not loaded.
I'm not loaded. You're loaded.
There's a shotgun under the table, too, just so you know.
And at the end of the podcast... Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see the shockwave over there. Wasn't that concealed. At the end of the podcast, stick around for Joe and I to play Russian roulette.
Yeah, you should never play Russian roulette with semi-automatic weapons. It doesn't work very well.
Who shoot last?
You can put some dummy rounds in it. Just
some snap caps.
It's all snap caps, and there's one live round in it, so you just keep like... Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No. It's going to end badly. I watched a video of a dude trying to build strip his Glock, who failed to remove bullet from chamber and shot himself in the leg. Yeah.
I saw a good shooting video the other day. I'll tell you after the podcast because it's not related, but it was a good one. It was the definition of surprise, motherfucker. Let's just say that. Yeah, John Wick's fatality in the Mortal Kombat, he is going to be killing a guy with a pencil.
I don't know. He's had a lot of interesting kills. I mean, like, he's very well educated, He really likes his stationery. I mean, that was our running gag for, when we talked about Chapter 2, was somebody get that man a pencil. Or a book.
Doesn't Danny, like, fucking Kane pick up a pencil at one point? And he's like, yep, I'm going to need this for later. But, yeah, so Winston finally meets with John. He's like, hey, I'm all down for this whole mission of vengeance you got, but, yeah, you just kill people on the high table, they'll replace them, so you're not really going to do anything. If you want this to be over, you've got to kill him in the right way. Like, you got to challenge him. Like, as a, member of a house, you have the right to challenge. And he's like, well, I gave up that. And you're like, well, I suggest you go get it back. So he travels to Germany to meet with his former family, who has a spot on the table, apparently. And his price of re-entry is to kill the man who killed their former head, Killian Harkin, head of the German table, played by Scott Atkins in a fat suit, pretty much. Which I like it, because he's like a legit like MMA martial artist. And if you look up this dude, he's like fucking ripped. So it's like him in like this fat suit just kicking the shit out of people. Like, a fat man should not move that fast. I know, I used to be one, and it would surprise people when I would move that fast. But yeah, he's just like tossing motherfuckers around and shit. And cheating at poker.
I mean, a dude that's the thing, dude. When you were a bigger dude, nobody's throwing your ass around. Like,
no, man, he's just like tossing motherfuckers right and left. But it's funny because it's like, by this time, the tracker has got himself stuck in a situation where he's like, no, finding is not enough. Like, you've got to like fucking. He's like stabs him in the hand. And he's like, all right, you can just pull the knife out, and I know you only think about yourself, or you just pull your hand out, and I know you're like down for the cause. So he fucking has to like rip his that shit just looked like it hurt like a motherfucker.
Yeah, that's what made me say, man, the high table's really got a fetish when it comes to hands.
Most people have feet fetishes. They got hand fetishes. So yeah, all three of them like fucking
like, what do you like? Fuck, that was my trigger hand.
Like, John Wick shows up at the German club to meet with Homeboy, and Kane is there, the tracker is there, and even Killa wants to kill him. So he's like, how about we play a game of poker to see who gets the honor of killing? And like, fucking all I'm like, pull out like what would be like killer hands. And then finally that dude throws over like fucking 5 aces or some shit, like that's impossible. And like, they're all like, really? And like, Kane, of course, is blind. He's like, did he cheat? And they're like, yeah, he cheated. He's like, can't stand a fucking cheater. He's like, he's the only one that is like, John and nobody's just like, really, dude? Like, fucking bullshit. And then Kane's like, what's going on, guys? Can't see the cards. So let me in on the joke.
Well, I totally, like, as I aspire to, be great with cards one of these days, I was like, rule number 1 is you never play with somebody else's deck. Like, give them.
He does throw that card and like fucking cut a dude with it. I was like, all right, that's pretty sweet. And they all kind of agree.
All right,
like,
calm down, Gambit.
They all kind of like, all right, we all want to kill each other, but let's put that on hold and fuck this guy up, and then we'll like reconvene afterward.
Right now, we've been slighted by one motherfucker. We now have a cause.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where everybody kind of went wrong. Is, like, you're bringing what should be, hey, we're all assassins, we're all out for the money at the end of the day, but now you're pissing
people off and giving him
like
allies.
Like,
yeah. The parts where they kind of like, all right, let's pause and then work together, and we'll kill each other later. Those are some of the best sequences when it's like them all fighting together.
So true. What was it? Was it chapter 2 or chapter 3 where they're fighting and then they end up in the Continental, and the guy comes up and he's like, okay, no business conducted here. John Wick, I'm a big fan, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Maybe that was 3.
That was 3 where it was, what's his name? But they still kind of had that same moment in 2 when him and Common are fighting each other and end up going through like the window of the Continental, and you're like, oh, stop, y'all need to go to the bar, have a drink and cool off, because no business on Continental grounds. And they just kind of go have a quick drink and chill a minute before they, like, all right, see you later. Kill you next time. Be seeing you, John, as they all say. But yeah, he gets back into the gang and gets his challenge, and of course Winston becomes his second, because if you know the old rules of dueling, you got to have a second, and if you don't go through it's your second's job to finish everything. So yeah, I like that whole way where they meet with the Harbinger, and he's like, basically draw cards, and then it's like, all right, time of the location, time of the duel, and they all make their choice and like pull a card, and it's like, oh nope, you win that one, all right. Choice of weapons, he's like blades, and he's like guns, and he's like, oh, Wick gets that one. And it's like location, time, and it's like, and then you get like the ultimate like video game battle, because of course the Marquis is a douchebag, and instead of being honorable and be like, all right, I'll wait until we have our duel.
Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
It's been a while, but I've seen bits and pieces. I never watched it like all the way through.
Did you like this entire time? I was like, this fucking little douchebag like reminds me so much of like how much you want to hate Joffrey, like you know, throughout so much of the Game of Thrones series, and I'm just like, you fucking pipsqueak. Like,
yeah, because of course he's like, oh, I have the right to choose a champion, so I'm gonna choose Cain and make you, instead of like fighting you myself. I'm like, you fucking pussy. So he's I'm gonna make you fight your friend. But then even that, he's like, all right, you have to be at the church that we're going to have the duel in at sunrise or whatever. Puts out like a $40 million bounty on him, or I think it might have been 50 at that point, and broadcasts it to like everyone in Paris. So now he has to like fight through the entire city, like wave after wave of bad guy. Because if he doesn't show up for the duel on time, he's automatically loses, and him and his second gets
like,
executed.
is there a rule to be like, hey, I'm just gonna stay here? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you know, I got till sunrise. I'm gonna camp out, but you know, I guess at that point, like, you got to visit your friends, I guess. Like,
got to go get a new suit, get dressed up for killing and shit, and like, you know, of course, the Bowery King is taking. He's like, I'm expanding operations to France, so he has a sweet base in an old subway station, and he's like, gonna need got you a new suit, John, and he's like, I'm also gonna need a gun. He's like, I thought you would never ask, and like, yeah, we get like a 5-minute like ad for Terran Tactical, which was made specifically for this movie. Like, and since the like release of this movie got delayed, he came out with the Sand Viper, which is his like competition gun, but this actually got made first, but he couldn't release it because it had to be held for the John Wick movie. I think someone like actually, without saying what the gun was, used it in a like big competition and won with that thing. But apparently it's like you can even take it apart and stab someone with the frame, which he eventually does. But like, it's like, yeah, the fucking Pit Viper, it's got this, and this. Like, it's just a fucking straight up ad for Terran Tactical. At the end of it, he's like, where'd you get this thing? He's like, well, I know a guy who knows a guy who shot a guy.
It's just so impractical. But I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't the price of a used car.
Yeah, it's $7,000 for a Pit Viper.
I'm like, I could have a really sweet gun, or I can have a drift car. What do I want?
Yeah, you can still get like the Combat Master packages for around $1,500 plus the cost of whatever gun you're having the work done to. But yeah, $7,000 for a Pit Viper, and you too can be John Wick.
Can you though? I feel like you've still got to have.
Well, you can still go out to, and train with Terran Tactical. He can teach you to be John Wick because he's the one that like taught Keanu how to be John Wick.
I still though, dude. I'm almost half his age, and I'm never gonna move like that. Never.
Yeah,
dude.
And I can understand.
I'm not even in my 40s, and I've already lost half movement in one of my shoulders.
Yeah, welcome to the club. I can understand why. Like I saw, he bought like all his stunt crew, like Rolex watches, like special edition Rolex watches after the film was done. I can understand why he buys gifts for these stuntmen because they took a fucking beating in this movie.
Oh yeah, I was watching, some of the making of and the behind the scenes, and like Literally, you got a, fucking flight of escalators and just head over, like...
Oh, yeah, down a fucking escalator.
I don't care if you're trained to know how to fall and to roll, like, you're still making impact. Shit's still uncomfortable and hurts. Like...
Or what about the dudes, like I said, it's a roving, 30, 45-minute just gunfight for the final of the movie before you even get to the duel of him battling his way through Paris. I mean, they get into
Dude, you got 30 minutes of them just in the fucking roundabout of the Eiffel Tower just fucking...
dudes getting hit with cars right and left. And then he gets into, like, kind of house-to-house fighting in a bunch of, like, abandoned buildings. And, of course, all the assassins wear bulletproof fucking suits. So these dudes show up with... fucking semi-automatic shotguns with dragon breath rounds. Is like, hey, even if it stops a bullet, I'm gonna set your ass on fire. That's like the perfect weapon for armored assassins is shooting them with a fucking exploding shotgun shells.
And I think that's the only time I've ever actually seen dragon's breath used in a tactical manner.
And I love the way they shot it too. It's like they shot it like overhead where you can see them going from like room to room. It's almost like if you ever seen videos of people training in like a shoot house where there's usually like a catwalk where instructors and shit can like look down and watch people. So it's like they pretty much like just built a house inside of what looked like a shoot house. So it's like the camera was like had this whole like bird's eye view of these like room to room gunfights. I was like, I've never seen that in a movie that I can remember. I was like, they do innovative shit in these John Wick movies. Like it seems like every movie they do something a little bit new.
But to your point, like, the last probably quarter of this movie, granted a quarter is, 30 minutes, very much felt like a video game.
Yeah, because the stakes just keep getting like higher and higher. And he's like, oh, boss battle time. And he finally gets the, drop on the tracker, Mr. Nobody. But he looks over and some dude's about to kill his dog. So instead of like finishing him off, he turns and like kills the guy that's trying to kill his dog. Because he's like, all right, respect. Yeah, I'm not gonna let somebody take out your dog. And then after that, it was like the guy's like, all right, money's not worth it. He like, and later on, like he even gets like the draw on him, and the dog looks at him like, bro, come on, he saved my ass. He's like, all right, fine, fuck it, let me cover him, and like actually starts helping John in the final leg of his journey. Yeah, because that final part of that battle where he gets to the church and there's like a 200-step staircase leading up to this church, and it's like just a constant fight up this. He gets there and he's like, there's nobody on it. It's like, I'm here. And as soon as he steps on the first step, motherfuckers just all start coming out. And it's like, if this was a video game, there would be health packets at the bottom of that staircase. It's like, oh, we know shit's about to go down.
Well, I was like, that was the only part that I was like, he's gonna get to the top and somehow he's going to end up at the bottom.
Yeah, like, he gets all the way to the top, and he runs into the fucking Marquis henchman. And dude, like, literally kicks him all the way back down the bottom. He's got to start over again. He's just laying there all fucked up, and Kane shows up, and he's like, I need you to get up, John. I need you to make it to the church. Like, we're going to do this. And he's like, and helps him, like, fight his way back up the stairs so he makes it on time. And even, like I said, the Mr. Nobody shows up and starts sniping people, covering them. And it's, like, great where he's like, he's calling out directions and shit. And he's like, all right, you've got 6 o'clock. I've got 9 o'clock. And just them two just like going back and forth, just straight fucking people up.
I don't think I'd be able to function blind. I feel like I'd fall on every step.
Dude, I fall now and I can see fine. I'm definitely not that level of mastery. But even back up before that, the fight scene in the Continental. I loved it. The fact that they were combining guns with, like, he gets like nunchucks and shit at one point and is like fucking nunchucking motherfucker. And that's like the first time I've ever seen, you see people like playing with nunchucks, but you rarely see someone like fighting with nunchucks and how that would like actually work. And even like at some point, like chucking people and shooting at the same time. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
I saw a short clip and, it basically shows like a guy like, ski mask with, some sort of rifle, like he's going to break into a dude's house. So the dude like looks on his doorbell camera and, opens a little closet by the front door, and it's like, all right, I got my shotgun, I got my rifle. No, he grabs the nunchucks. It's like,
because it's like you really...
Hey, how you doing? Come on in.
Because, I've learned nunchucks, and there's a whole lot of cool fancy passes and all that stuff, but you rarely see, like, how fighting them
The only thing I learned to do with nunchucks is...
Hit yourself in the balls?
No. I hit myself on the bridge of the nose. Ended up with a fucking massive-ass nosebleed.
I've never hit myself in the face, but I've definitely hit myself in the back of the head trying to do a pass and shit.
Like,
passing like
one of
around
my
the
childhood
neck from, like...
buddies, like, I mean, dude, we were watching fucking Ninja Turtles. If you watch Ninja Turtles, you gotta... So, I was younger than him, so my parents got me the plastic ones. Well, his parents bought him, like, the wooden ones. And, yeah, a little bit of a different animal, I'll say.
Yeah, I've got wooden ones, and I've got, like, metal ones, too. That shit really hurts when you crack yourself in the knuckle or something when you miss a pass, and you're like, oh, fuck. But yeah, that was like pretty fucking cool. But yeah, then you get to the actual duel, and it's like very, all right, you're gonna start off at like 25 paces. Everyone shoots.
No, it's 30 paces.
Yeah, well, 30 paces. If you survive, we reload. You walk 10 paces closer. If you survive, you reload. You walk 10 paces closer. So it's like, wasn't even like a kind of like a gunfight. It's like literally like old school, like fucking duel.
It's jousting, but with guns.
Which standing still and having to shoot a motherfucker, it's like the whole shooting and moving, kind of the gun fu thing that they kind of invented for all the John Wick films is like, you've just taken like all his skill set out, but then you got a blind guy, but then he's like, you're the guy standing right in front of you, and they're also like on gravel, so all right, I can hear where he's at, and it's like they shoot each other in the arm, and then like shoot each other, like Wick gets hit in like the fucking collarbone, which got hurt like a motherfucker, and then like the final shot, like he just takes it, gets hit in the gut, and the guy's like, I choose the right of coup de grace, and like grabs the gun and like runs up to finish him off, and then Winston's like, you arrogant son of a bitch. He hasn't shot yet, you dumbass. He's like, huh? What? And then fucking Wick just like domes him. And of course that badass Harbinger is like, all right, duel's over. You win. Kane,
and I thought the duel would have played out vastly different. Like, where John and Kane are sort of on the same plane. Like, they just want to be done. Like...
Yeah. And
at this point, they're like, mutual respect, brotherhood. Like, I expected, like, all right, shoot.
Both on turn, shoot him.
One go for the kid, one go for, the Harbinger. But I guess at the end of the day, like, that wouldn't have solved anything because...
They would have, I guess, violated the rules. And then Wick doesn't want to, he knows his friend's there just because... because they have that conversation at the church too, where he's like, do you really believe, your wife can hear you? And he's like, nah, probably not. And he's like, well, then why do you do it? And he's like, because I may be wrong. And it's like, he's like, well, we're, one or both of us is going to die today. He's like, yeah, maybe not. We'll see. But he knows that he's only there to save his daughter. So he's like, he could have easily killed him at that last draw, but he takes the hit and like saves his bullet to fucking finish off the other dude. So he's like, all right, Kane, you're free. Wick, well, you're probably gonna die, but you're free. But does he die?
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like,
he was shot in the arm, the collarbone, and then like the gut. None of those, seem to be the fatal hits.
The gut,
it can be if you don't get treatment, but.
I feel like a man as well connected as John Wick is probably going to be, A-okay. And what better way to kind of fall off the radar and the grid than...
Yeah, they're not looking for a dead man.
And at the same time, too, people are like, oh, but the gravestone and blah, blah. And I'm like, I know plenty of people that are still alive that bought their, gravestones... well in advance of their, deaths. Like,
Oh yeah, that's that one thing. He has that conversation with Winston too when he's getting ready to leave, and he's like, the hardest part of burying Sharon, the concierge, was like trying to figure out what to put on his gravestone. Like, the dude's been so much. He's like, I finally just put, like, friend or whatever. And he's like, what would you put on your tombstone? And the king is like, long live the king. He's like, that's kind of horrific. He's like, nah. He's like, I bought that shit years ago. And then as John's getting out to, like, go on his journey, he's like, loving husband. He's like, what? He's like, that's what I want on my tombstone. And like I said, after the thing's over, he's like, will you get me back home? And he's like, yeah. Well, then you cut to him and the king at possibly John Wick's grave. And they had that conversation where he's like, I wonder if he's in heaven or hell. And Winston just goes, I don't know. There's no telling where he's at. And the Bowery King just kind of laughs like, yeah, uh-huh. And I'm like, dude's not dead. He's like, if you want to take out the rest of the high table, the best way to do it is to not have them know you're still around. And the studio has already announced there's a John Wick 5 coming. So I'm like, I don't think he's actually gonna be dead. And supposedly he's even in this the ballerina spinoff, but I don't know time-wise if that's set.
But then again,
previous or concurrent with events.
Like I'm wondering, like, if not John Wick,
do we get
Chapter
like a new
5,
like a new person in the John Wick Chapter 5? It follows somebody else. Follows, like, because this is the only movie with a post-credit scene. You get Kane finally going back to, like, meet his daughter because he's, like, now free. And, of course, Akira's there waiting on him. And you see her, like, creeping up on his ass. But it cuts before you see if she actually killed him for killing her father. So
and that's my thing. Like, I'm wondering
we get Kane versus Akira in the next
like, as much as the high table and the assassins try to be professional, like, a lot of siblings and younger generation get fathers and mothers and stuff, so there's always that drive for vengeance.
Yeah, do we get Kane's, did Kane get killed, and then we get, like, Kane's daughter hunting down Akira, and we get, like, a non-John Wick movie, but...
And John Wick comes in as the father figure and be like, my children, please, this is not the way.
But yeah, as much money as this movie's making, and the fact that it's already, like... Yeah, I highly doubt that John Wick is actually dead. At least not until the 5th movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to remember the ending of the... Did it cut immediately after he falls off the roof?
No. Like, when he falls off the roof, they go to go to check that alley because his dog runs off and he's not there. And then you see one of the homeless guys wheeling him in to... meet got him in a fucking shopping cart and, like, takes him into the Bowery King.
That's right. So, I mean, I'm gonna operate under the pretense, unless you see a dead body, nobody's dead.
No, because we just cut from him having a sit down. So, as we kind of wrap up here, what's some scenes, some action that we've not talked about that, I really like the introduction of Mr. Nobody. I thought his whole loadout was cool. And Kane is like I said, I would watch a movie about Kane. I would watch a movie about fucking Mr. Nobody. In this world of them starting to do spin-offs, I wouldn't mind seeing
those would be two that I would
guys followed.
But even some of our past characters, like, I don't know, like, I honestly would like to see more of the dogs, like,
a new dog film. Nuts. Oh yeah,
the real Paw Patrol.
And I like when, like, they help John up the stairs, and, like, the fucking Mr. Nobody's just like, him and his dog's like, I'm just gonna sit on this bench and watch the show. Like, fucking cracks open a beer, pours a beer for the dog. It's like,
come on, buddy, get in on this.
Yeah. I'm surprised, like, Halle Berry didn't show up with her dogs, and that's gonna be the next movie. She meets the fucking Mr. Nobody and they hook up.
This is probably like one of the puppies or something. Like,
yeah, that's the next film. It's fucking Halle Berry and Mr. Nobody bond over their love of dogs.
There is no purer form of love than a human and their dog. Okay.
Even a dumb dog is still a dog.
Nuts. Oh. I don't know, like, just the demo of the fucking Continental, like, that shit was just like, all right, well, I guess we got our own demo team. Like,
that's awful fast to load up a hotel like that. But they fucked up the interior, but the building was still standing, so it was not a very good professional bomb team, because they didn't. Normally those things like actually collapse, and that was kind of Winston saying, all right, if John wins the duel, he's free from all table obligations, and as his second, you rebuild my fucking hotel at pay the bill for it and reconsecrate it, and also put me back in charge as its manager.
So, who's going to be the concierge this go round? Does nobody end up as a concierge?
Or Akira was a concierge of the Osaka Continental. Maybe Winston becomes like the father figure and takes her under his wing. Or hell, maybe Sharon had some family that we don't know about it, and we get like a young, what's his name? The guy from Creed, like a Michael B. Jordan, shows up as like the son of Sharon and becomes like the new concierge.
So does
or a John
Wick,
Boyega.
Does Wick work his way to the top and become top of the high table?
He's the new elder.
I mean, they've literally thrown everybody at him.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is make him in charge of everything, so he stops killing you motherfuckers. It's like he's like, no, like we're just like. How many assassins can be left in the world? Because he's killed a lot of motherfuckers at this point.
I actually watched. So he has the highest kill record out of any TV or movie thing with over 400. I think it was over 470 kills. Like, I watched a 3-hour video on all of the John Wick kills.
Damn.
Like, horror characters, other action. Nope. Highest kill count. Need to get a hold of James A. Janice and be like, look, I know this isn't horror, but I need you to do research and get me the exact, count of how many bodies
we need a John Wick kill count. Because I wonder which... This movie has to have the highest body count. I would assume, because... Fucking, like I said, that final scene was like, god damn, they were stacking
I mean, you
bodies.
had 211 steps, which is kind of odd that, like, all right, John, you got 211 steps. You got to get to the top. Like, mini boss. Like, that's the level you dread in every video game. Being like, every motherfucker has the high ground.
And that dude literally, like, gets, like, survives, like, every fucking fight and keeps showing back up until, like, the final fight. Just like a video game. It's like, oh, you fought me now, but I'll be back. This is not even my final form. And just, like, keeps, fucking, showing back up. So it's like, he was the best mini-boss.
All right, so, idea. Most of the time... movie to video game adaptations suck. Could we have a decent John Wick game? I kind of feel like there's grounds that...
Yeah, because do you remember the old, Matrix Reloaded game? Where it was like you could play as either Halle Berry's character, or not Halle Berry, Jada Pinkett Smith character, or another character, and it was like 2 different story arcs that kind of wove in and out. But that game did a good job of combining gunfighting with martial arts. So that kind of game mechanic would work good for a John Wick game. And hell, that game came out fucking long time ago. So the technology has got to have improved since that game came out. So if it's done right, fucking John Wick could make a badass video game.
Just be like, I am always outmanned, like...
It's like survival horror. You got to keep running out of ammo and shit.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you know, we say it every time there's a John Wick film. It's like, holy shit, they actually reload and check their chambers. And, you know, or, you know, they're not just fucking, you know, sweeping their entire, you know, team. Like,
yeah, the fucking gun handling and tactics are awesome in these movies. Well, as we kind of wrap up, final thoughts on this here cigar, and I'll let you give your final thoughts on your vape over there. This kind of oaky bourbon flavor has been good, but it's also got a little bit of earthy, a little bit of like a touch of spice and a touch of sweetness too. That it's kind of like bourbon, little touch of sweetness. But this is definitely one that could make its way into my regular rotation.
What was the price point on that guy?
This is like a $12 stick, something like that. It's not huge, hugely expensive. I had another cigar, and then I got bored and smoked it because we didn't record Sunday. So I needed an Easter smoke since the cigar shop was closed. And then when I went back to get another one, I was like, hey, fuck it, I'm going to try this Black Lab instead. Maybe I'll do that cigar for another episode. The fucking Batman cigar which was actually pretty fucking good. But, so what's any final thoughts on your vape juice there? Are you seeing red?
My name is not Chevelle, so I'm not seeing red. But I taste all the red. If you're a fan of red slushy, I recommend the Just Reds by Alt Zero.
All right, and with that, we'll be right back with some science. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds Podcast. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com. We're on the ESO Network at esonetwork.com. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Cigar Nerd Pod. Remember, smoke 'em as you got 'em. Like, comment, and subscribe.